Hello, I'm Brent Fox. Welcome to I Hate Rock Music. Sorry I had to take about a week or so off. Had a death of a close and old friend of mine, so had to take a week off. So let me get back into it. I got some doozies coming up in the next several videos. Sometimes I think I'm going to run out of obscure bands to talk about, but that won't be happening anytime soon. So this video is going to be about the band Fort Mudge Memorial Dump, which is a very catchy name and a really unusual record. I didn't find out about it until probably the 90s. I kind of knew it was out there, but I just kept going under the radar. But finally got a copy back in the 90s, and it's a really interesting record. A band out of Walpole, Massachusetts, um, made a pretty big splash in the Boston scene. Had some really interesting connections to some other bands. So the band was Carolyn Stratton on vocals, Dan Keaty on guitar, James Deptulo on drums, Dave Aramat on bass, and Richard Clerici on vocals and guitar. And so, really interesting female vocalist. I think she's a pretty cool vocalist. And read an interview with them, and it really cleared up some of the things that I wondered about some of these obscure bands with these split personalities. And interview the guy from Fort Mudge Memorial Dump talked about the fact that when you have a band together and you have multiple personalities and multiple writers, of course, various members of the band insist on doing their own songs as well as other people's bands. So there's some collaborations, and then there's real interest in doing their own songs as well. And sometimes they can be against the general feel of the band. And I think this Fort Mudge Memorial Dump record is a good example, and for that reason, I'm going to go through the songs a little bit. So the songs are starts out with Mr. Man, which sounds a lot like Shocking Blue, and that's one of the things about Karen Stratton. It's really cool as a vocalist on this record. She sounds a lot like the singer in Shocking Blue. But there's some really great dual guitar works, very driving. The drums are really excellent. Has a super heavy ending, and so kind of sets the pace for a record, but then kind of these schizophrenic tendencies come on. The next song is Crystal Forms, with a really great dual guitar skronk to it, some really great solos. Then it goes into Actions of a Man, which is kind of a ballad, and then they switch over to male vocals, a lot of good acoustic guitars, and a really cool acoustic solo at the end. Then goes into um, Blues Tune, um, which kind of sounds like a sped up Allman Brothers in a way, and has really great guitar work. Then it goes into The Seventh is Death, very sinister, some great wah-wah guitar, and again kind of a heavy ending. And then goes into a number of songs which are really excellent. Some of my favorites on the record, and there's about five of them in a row. What Good is Spring, which has some really nice keyboards, and it's very slow and evocative, and has these wonderful female vocals, and that's one of the tunes that's a little out of joint with the record. But as I've mentioned in many videos, I've really reconciled myself to the schizophrenia of some of these late 60s bands, early 70s bands, where they accommodate a wide range of different kind of aesthetics. So then the next song is Tomorrow, which is very jazzy, but kind of psych jazz, and a nice ballad, again with cool lead male vocals, very droning, nice electric guitar. And then goes into Questionable Answer, which is instrumental with horns. Uh, oh, I'm sorry, has a female vocal and is a really cool song. And then finishes up with The Singer, which again has the male vocal, and then some pretty heavy psych. And the last couple tunes are pretty long, 7 minutes and 40 seconds, so they really get to stretch out. So one of the things that's notable about this group is, once again, we see kind of the tail end of psychedelia, and then moving into some more prog directions, and then a lot of eclecticism. But the guitar work of Dave Creedy is excellent and very forward looking, and so the general record kind of feels a little psychedelic and somewhat in that era. And then you have this very forward-looking modern kind of guitar work. So he really makes this record what it is. And they're they're lumped in with the Bosstown sound, but they in a lot of ways they kind of have a San Francisco feel. A lot of that has to do with the uh, the psychedelic aspect of it, and a lot of the stuff with the male vocals. And once again, I think the different personalities of having this male vocalist dominate some songs, and then this female vocalist, Carolyn Stratton, dominate other songs, works for me. And I've done a lot of videos on bands like this that have male and female gender singers and writers in the same band, and we end up with these interesting personalities. And again, Carol Stratton is a really cool vocalist. She both reminds me of the singer from Shocking Blue, as well as Melanie of all people. But it turns out that Fort Mudge Memorial Dump released this one album in 1969, and they actually recorded a follow-up record that's never been released. And apparently, Dave Shuden of Listening, the band Listening, ended up in the band at some point too. So it's really interesting to see this connection between Fort Mudge Memorial Dump and then Listening, of course, who are a big band in Boston. I did a separate video on them. So I recommend the record. It's certainly worth a listen. Some people are going to respond to it more than others. And I know a lot of collectors I know, including a lot of big collectors that do videos on YouTube, have difficulties with these split personalities. But I think it's just a sign of the times. I really enjoy it. I don't have any problem reconciling a band like this or many of the other bands I've done that have these schizophrenic personalities, trying to show all that they can do and all the writing talent that they have in the band. So now that I understand the motivations a little better, I really have come to appreciate it, and particularly because it's pretty common. So anyway, some really cool heavy elements, some great uh, tail end psychedelia music, a lot of guitar work that's very forward looking, very cool guitar player. Um, both singers are really good, and so it's definitely a worthwhile record. And another great band from the Boston area of that era. So Fort Mudge Memorial Dump. Who could forget a band name like that? Thanks for watching. I'm Brian Fox.